Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Jeremy Poplin with Thunder Breakdown.
That's right, it is time for another Thunder Breakdown here from the digital desk as we are talking about Game 5 last night in a wrap-up game in the Western Conference Finals where the Oklahoma City Thunder have punched their ticket to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012. You can go back and look at all of our tremendous coverage that we had for you last night, news9.com, newson6.com as well, and part of that coverage is our guest that we will welcome in live from his home, 14, 15, 16-hour days that he's been putting in left and right covering this Thunder team as they make it to the NBA Finals. He's our very own Steve McGee. Steve, man, I'm glad that you were able to maybe get a little bit of rest tonight, and you have a couple of days of rest, right? Because we don't have our first game until next week on Thursday night, so I'm happy for you that you get a little bit of rest, and also happy for Thunder fans that have been through the gauntlet over the past 5 years or so with this team and the trajectory that we've talked about for so many years. Finally, it was accomplished last night. They made it back to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, when Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, it was that they were to go to the finals like every other year, and it just didn't happen with injuries and such. You can't assume. So this is what makes this moment so special is don't assume this is going to happen next year. It should with what they have, the roster and how the money works and the draft picks, but never assume they can get back there the next year, the next year, next year. So right now it's so important to embrace this team. If you like Oklahoma and Oklahoma City Thunder, get behind this team because they have a good chance of winning an NBA title and bring it to the state of Oklahoma.
What was the atmosphere like last night? Let's just start from the pregame, walking into the building, like the feeling that you had, that everyone else had. The game starts, and then you can carry it through to the trophy presentation last night. I can only imagine that one had to rank up there with the moments that you've been inside Paycom.
Yeah, it was a special moment. The game was great to watch the way it unfolded. I was kind of surprised. I thought Minnesota would have a bigger punch. They scored first, and that's about it. But the pregame atmosphere was electric as usual. Game 7 for Denver was pretty big as well. That was a pressure cooker. This one didn't have that tense feeling to it because they had 3 chances to win one game. But as the game quickly went on, they led 26-9. It's just amazing how an NBA team can be held to 9 points with a 3-pointer and all that. It shows you how great Oklahoma City's defense can be when they're fully on against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Minneapolis native there, Chet Holmgren, showed up, big time. Chet and Shea and J-Dub, those are the guys that needed to score, and they scored a plenty. That's something they didn't do in Game 3 in Minneapolis. They performed in Game 4, and they took it to another level last night in Game number 5. In Minnesota, I was surprised. Chris Finch, I thought his team would have a little more effort in this game, and it wasn't at all. And it was, all smiles for the Thunder pretty much after the 5-minute mark of the first quarter. You can kind of tell that I don't think Minnesota, I think they want to go on vacation or something. I don't want to say that in a mean way, but it just looked like they were checked out. In Oklahoma City, they were focused. They knew what they had to do. The moment wasn't too big for them. We talked about that in the Denver series. And they pulled through in shining colors, A+ for them. And that first half of basketball was about as close to perfect basketball as you could possibly play in the NBA in a Western Conference Finals game. And for Oklahoma City to win the Western Conference Finals in 5 games, only needed 5 games to win. That says a lot about how strong this basketball team is right now.
I think there were a couple of things that you mentioned in there, and I want to start with SGA. In a closeout game like this, we've seen teams be a little tight before, even when they play at home. I felt like that in an MVP type moment and performance from him in the first quarter when he had a hand in how many straight baskets in a row. Like SGA came in and set the tone for Oklahoma City last night and allowed the rest of the Thunder players to just follow right along in his path. If he goes and shows that he's maybe a little tight, maybe he doesn't have a great start to that game, I think it gives Minnesota a little bit of confidence. Maybe some of the other teammates are a little tight as well, but that was what MVP type performances are to me, is the way that he started that contest last night.
And the way he played early on, I think the defense they played fed to him and the other guys to get off and running. It was just amazing. I take notes on somebody scoring, and before I could even look up, finish writing, they had already stolen the ball again or already forced a turnover. It was amazing. I mean, 14 turnovers there in the first half. Is that right? It was like one after another. They just kept coming in waves on defense. Kendrick Williams got some early playing time in the first quarter, but Shea, MVP, that's what you want from your star player. And he showed up and showed out. And, he's been incredible over these last 3 games for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The last, 3 games. Yeah, he's had a good series. He's had there's a reason why he was the Western Conference MVP. He had some off-shooting games in the Denver and perhaps in the Memphis series, but nothing dramatic. It was nothing to worry about. But these last couple of games, when they needed a win, he's been the leader of the team on and off the court. You can tell.
I want to bring this stat up before I forget, and then we'll get into some of your takeaways from last night, trophy presentation and everything. I saw this. This was from NBA.com. In the 2025 playoffs, SGA has already amassed 10 games with 30 or more points and 5 or more assists. He needs just 2 more such games to have the most 30.5 assist games in NBA history since 1963. By the way, just the names on that list, just your average Michael Jordans, LeBron Jameses, and keep going down every other great that's ever played this game. That's the company that SGA is in now.
And he will get on that list real soon. He'll do it probably in the first 2 games of his playoffs, 30 points and 5 assists. But he's been associated with Michael Jordan before as well. I mean, he has really raised his game. There's still probably a lot of maybe a few non-believers out here on that saying it's a maybe not a fluke season, but this jump on board. This guy is real. He's legit. I remember hearing from a national media member about 3-4 years ago that I don't think they can rely on this guy to get into the finals and win it all. And I'm like, I've seen this guy play. He's pretty talented, and he's only going to get better. So I wouldn't put that statement out there on Twitter or something like that. And here we are. Shea has his team in the NBA Finals, and barring any injuries, they could be right back there the next year and the next year and so on. So outstanding. It's just incredible what Sam was able to do. This team loses Kevin Durant. They got nothing in return. And now he's right back in 2025 playing for the NBA title.
A couple of quick social media points. Someone asked Kevin Durant today whether he felt like that his 2012 team could match up with this 2025 team. And you know how Kevin is on Twitter sometimes. Like, Kevin's not afraid to go at someone. And I thought that he had the proper praise for this 2025 team. So if you haven't seen it, maybe I'll pull it up here in a second. But here's the one, as I produce on the fly, that I wanted to give you, Steve. You brought up turnovers. From Matt Moore at Hardwood Paroxysm on Twitter. Thunder fans love him, by the way, because he's so heavily involved in the Denver Nuggets. Oklahoma City is the first team since '98 to have 1,000-plus steals across the regular season and postseason. Now, the steals obviously dropped with the rule change when the three-point era came in, but they had the most steals per game in the playoffs of any team since '93, and they will likely wind up as champion with the highest per-game steal rate ever in the history of the game. And that first quarter that you brought up earlier was a prime example of just the tenacity, the understanding of angles that they all play with.
9 points. Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals scores 9 points in the first quarter. That's all you need to know about the Thunder defense. And sure, Minnesota got some good looks. Maybe they felt like they had a few shots that should normally go in, but that is just, they just Blue Dort, Caruso, Kendrick Williams, Cason Wallace, Dub. Shea's a good defender. Chet, it's just there's no weak link in this starting 5. And we had a weak, some would say a weak link in last year's playoff, and then they corrected that problem. And so it's just, there are very few flaws on this Thunder basketball team. So 68 wins was not a fluke, and where they're at right now was certainly not a fluke as well.
All right, you want to hear from Mark, SGA, some of the guys from last night? Let's listen in first. Let's hear from Mark. What an incredible job that he's done. you're around him much more than I am, but I got a kick out of the fact that he actually smiled in the trophy presentation. So he is human. The joke I had with you earlier is Mark bought 4.0, and that's perfect for what they need. But here's Mark last night after the game was over.
Experiences, I thought today, we're up 3-1, we're coming home. All the psychological, human nature elements of that game would get you to exhale. I didn't think we've handled, game 6 in Denver. We did not play our best game in terms of what we could control. Certainly game 3 in this series, those are both with leads. And I thought our recognition of that and our course correction of that coming into tonight's game is a great example of that. These are rich experiences. We've played a lot of playoff games now and dealt with a lot of different things. And this team, as they've always done, they internalize the experience, they strip the emotion, they learn the lesson, and then they compete presently in the next moment. And that's why we've improved at the rate that we have, because they've got that way about them.
Pretty much dead on, right? It's been the same message the entire time almost that he's been head coach. And that is kind of what builds that character. And that to me is also, Steve, what builds the DNA and the culture inside of that building, because he expects the best out of everyone. And he even mentioned that it doesn't matter if it's, someone in the locker room attendant, the chef that's preparing the meals, it's everything. And it's that drive and it's that commitment from Mark that sets the tone for everyone.
And he's not a look at me guy either. He's very, he'd love to be behind the scenes. I remember a couple of years ago, they announced him over the public address announcer, and the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Mike Dagnall. And he was asked about that. Hey, they called you Mike. He goes, I don't care. As long as they don't call me something worse, So people are still getting to know this guy, and I would imagine there'd be some teams probably sniffing around his assistants going, hey, I want some of that Mark Dagnall DNA on my basketball team. Who's out there that we could possibly get to coach our team? But it's just an X's and O's guy. He wanted to be a head coach a long time ago. He stuck with it. He knew the situation, the rebuild. I'm like, I can handle this. And it was built perfectly for him. And he gets along great with the players. He knows when to coach, when not to coach. He said he's probably a yeller a little bit at practice, but he's not going to harp on anyone or embarrass them on national TV. But he's just, as they say, a player's coach. And whatever, all the people that have helped him along the way, UConn's Jim Calhoun had a factor in him. Those guys have really helped him out to become the coach what he is today.
Learning's the big theme here. So let's hear from J-Dub and SGA from last night.
I think that last series was big for us. Just obviously, a lot of us, that was our first game 7, getting over the hump of the second round. I think that was big for us.
Some people felt that 2012 bunch that went to the finals was kind of happy to just be there, whether that's right or wrong. You kind of get the sense watching you guys play and talk afterwards that you realize there's unfinished business.
Yeah, I said it before, this isn't our goal. We didn't start the season like we want to win the West. We want to win the NBA championship. Now, we are a step closer to our goal, and we're happy about that, but still four more games to go win, 4 really hard games to go win. We have to be the best version of ourselves for 4 nights to reach the ultimate goal, and we understand that. We know that. And that's what we're focused on.
You can really feel that too. By the way, special shout out appearance from Dean Blevins in voice only here on the digital desk asking that question last night. But yeah, they've kind of carried that attitude with them. I feel like I'm a broken record in saying that, but that's really who they are. There's nothing else to them other than that mindset right there.
They're a very unselfish team, and it was a good question because I think that team back in 12 assumed that they were going to be back. We talked about this. They assumed they were going to be back to the next year or the next year. It just didn't happen. But, you think about their first year here with a trying year. Their second year here, they go to Lakers on 1, take them to 6 games. The next year, they lose to Dallas in the Western Conference Finals. And so here they're in year number 4, they make it all the way to the NBA Finals. And with that young team, they're like, yeah, we're going to be back several times, So, if they lose that series to the Heat, I'm like, it's okay. We'll be back next year. And they probably would have without Russell's injury, though. That was the problem for the next year. So this team, is built better, I think, than that team back in 2012. everyone gets along. Not to say they didn't back then. It's just this team right now. The roster is just built better and built to succeed long term compared back to 2012.
Let's go through as we watch some of the trophy presentation from last night. Just kind of tell me what some of your broad takeaways were from last night. Doesn't necessarily even have to be play on the floor, Steve, last night. It can be something here from the ceremony as well, because it just seemed, even from someone that was watching this on his television, seeing the passion pour out of that arena from the fan base, and then finally seeing them be able to punch the ticket here, it really was a special moment that was even able to translate through the television screen.
Yeah, I thought it was the best moment of the night. The game was great, but then when you see that, I was watching, about 5 rows up center court, and they put all the towels around Mark Dagnall. That was funny. Sam Presti, big smiles. Clay Bennett with a big smile. Clay Bennett wants to bring a championship to the state of Oklahoma so bad, and so he's real close, 4 wins away. It was just a great moment. It just shows you that collection of players right there, the way Sam and his staff have built this team. They have the right coach. They have the right owner. It was a great moment, and it's unfinished business. They're still 4 away from their ultimate goal, and go for it right now. Don't assume next year is going to be better. Just go for it right now. But it was just great to watch that as a reporter that covers them. They were just, it was almost like a college graduation. You're so proud of what they were able to accomplish in doing so in 5 games. So hopefully there's another trophy celebration in a couple of weeks and a parade and all that, but they're not thinking about that. All they're doing is, looking ahead to the Knicks-Pacers game tonight, focusing on game 1, which is next week. But look at that smile from Sam. That just, they deserve to smile. They have done a great job rebuilding this franchise into a contender for several years to come.
I'm going to ask you this because I heard Patty Gasso actually say this in a post-game press conference a few moments ago after OU beat Tennessee. And the question was, are you ever really surprised by this team? So I'll ask you that question, Steve. You've seen them almost as much as anyone. Was there ever any moment that you were surprised by this team about how good they actually were?
I had some doubts after watching Denver in game 6. I'm like, okay, we're home, game 7. Well, how are they going to respond? And they responded big time. So my little doubt there was answered. But this, to where they're at now, was done in the offseason with Crusoe and Hartenstein. Those 2 guys, Mark said these guys jumped on a moving train and it was seamless. There was no confusion, no controversy. They knew exactly what they were here to do, and they did exactly that. So without those 2 guys, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. Maybe they'd be close, but those are the 2 guys they really need to help build this team and to get to where they're at right now. And, had Chet not gotten hurt, they would have won over 70 games this year. So, and Mark Dagnall will probably be NBA head coach for the 2nd year in a row.
Last night, I think, was win 80 for them in total. So that matches what the Celtics did last year. And now it's got to be 84 to lift the Larry O'Brien on this. And I'm not trying to get ahead of anyone because there's still 4 games to go. But every single time that there seems to be some sort of doubt, they've come through with an answer. And more times than not, a resounding answer to just how good they are.
Yeah, and remember, they've only lost once at home in the playoffs, and that was that first game against Denver where that plan kind of backfired, and guy hit the shot at the buzzer. If not, they'd be a perfect 8-0. So no more than 8-0. What would they be? Let's see, 2 wins against Memphis, 4 against 8-0. I think
I'm not a math major.
I think they're 8-1 now. So I'm not a math guy. My dad was an accountant. I did not get that gene. But it's impressive that the loss they've had at home in the playoffs was that opening loss to Denver, and that was a learning moment there. Like I think Dub said it. We started the series down 0-1. That's at home, and that was kind of took some time to get adjusted to that, and then that next game they came out and destroyed Denver. So, Um, they have everything right in front of them. They're healthy. That's so key. That's why I wanted, let's get this thing done in 5. Don't let this series linger, because a chance of somebody tweaking an ankle or a shoulder
Yeah.
or, something else. So now they can rest up. Pacers, I would assume it's going to be the Pacers unless something weird happens in that game tonight at the Garden. Will the Knicks lose 3 straight games at home? I'm kind of thinking that will, Anna, but we'll see.
I looked at some of the numbers. It does not. The history does not favor the Pacers tonight. Now, history favors them over the long haul of the series, but going back on the road when you're up 3-1 typically goes the other direction. But if anything, Indiana has proven, if it is the Pacers, because I was looking at their offensive stats today from the playoffs, they are, if not number 1, they're in number 3 in almost every single category you can think of. I mean, everything down from, points in transition per 100 possessions, number 1 in the league. You go down to their 3-point shooting. I mean, it's impressive, the offensive juggernaut that they've turned into so far.
And Rick Carlisle is rock solid.
Yes, he is.
It's kind of like, we're playing the Thunder again. He's got some Thunder history in the playoffs, perhaps. But we'll see what Tibbs and the Knicks can do. You never know. The Warriors came back from 3-1 against, what was that team they came back on? So,
I got one final thing.
I didn't know this, but last night's game was the anniversary of the Klay Thompson.
Yes. Yeah. They were asked about that in the post game, and they were like, yeah, that wasn't even thought of. We didn't even think about that. And I'm like, yeah, you save that for fans and for media members to allow us to talk about something like that.
We had that huge halftime lead, it looked like, no way Minnesota's come back. I made the joke. I'm like, see that Minnesota bench? Do you see Klay Thompson over there anywhere? Or just one turn into a 3-point.
One final thing I want to play, because I think this is the epitome of who Shea is. I thought speech on the court last night was tremendous as he was given the MVP trophy, but he really hammered it home once he got inside the press conference with this.
Didn't want to go back to Minnesota, travel-wise. And then I wanted the fans to be able to enjoy the moment with us. I wanted them to be able to see it unfold in front of their eyes. I wanted them to be able to celebrate tonight in our building, go home, get drunk, whatever they do. I wanted them to have fun with the moment. And it was good. I just wanted to make sure that, like, above all, I could give my energy and my effort to try to give these fans what they.
Yeah, he wanted the fans to be able to, quote, go home and get drunk, whatever they do, in celebration last night. But that was that was right in line with everything that we heard on the floor from him. Just in a very crazy world that we live in, the epitome of class. Like, hey, you know what? Obviously, I don't want to go back and play a game on the road, but more importantly, I'd like to come back here and win it for these fans that have been here through all of this with us when we were winning 20 games a year for 2 years in a row to where we're at now. It was important to him, and I think that carries so much weight with this fan base.
He picture perfect role model, picture perfect MVP to have on your team, on and off the court, genuine, nice guy. And even in this play, even last night, once again, he gets done working out pregame. Here we go. Security guy with him, walks all the way to the end of the line, signs autographs, slowly works his way across the crowd, behind the basket, all the way to the tunnel for the Thunder to go out and go in at halftime. Nothing changes for him. The moment is, like, I don't have time for this. He's going to sign away. And that just shows you what type of person he is. That's just, how can you not like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Because, what do you not like about him? He doesn't say anything controversial. He's very genuine with his answers.
The only reason people boo him is because he's good.
Yeah, they booed him in Minnesota.
That's legitimately the only reason they boo him, though, is because he's so good.
Are we booing Anthony Edwards, Oklahoma City fan? No, I'm not booing. So, yeah, I didn't understand that at all. But Minnesota, that's a rough crowd. That's, they booed Giddey, too. So, boo, sir, they paid the money to come in. They can do what they want, I guess.
Indeed, indeed. Steve, this has been fun, man. We'll do a couple of more of these, obviously, with all of our lead up here before we get ready for game number 1 coming up next week. Home for the first 2 games. As a matter of fact, I think I might have a full screen for this. Ah, yes, looky there. Again, producing on the fly. There's the schedule that we have Thursday night and Sunday, then Wednesday, and then Friday. Now, the Wednesday-Friday matchups will obviously be on the road in either Indiana or New York. But that is where we currently are as we speak with the Thunder waiting for their next opponents. I hope you get some rest, my friend, because we'll probably do this all over again multiple times coming up here over the next couple of days. Practice coming up as well. And as always, great to see you and great work last night, my man.
If the Thunder are working, I'll be working. If they're off, I'm going to be off. Because my last off day was the day before the Denver series started. So it was like, but that comes with the assignment. You got to take your time off in little small pockets. So that's the way it is. But this is a fun team to cover. This is great for the state, great for the Oklahoma City metro area. I can't think, and it's just a great time for sports right now. The OU softball team won in dramatic fashion in the 7th inning. You got Oklahoma State golf that won a title in men's golf, and now you have the Thunder doing their thing. So a lot of things to talk about.
It never ends, and that's a good reason that why this state is one of the best for all of sports. Steve, we'll see you again here in the next couple of days, and appreciate you for joining us here on the Digital Desk.
Take care. See you.
The great Steve McGee from News 9, the Thunder reporter. Go to the website, news9.com. Check out all of our content that we have developed for you directly after the game and leading up to game number 1 of the NBA Finals. News9.com and newson6.com as well. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the subscribe and like button. And from all of us here at the Digital Desk, my name is Jeremy Poplin, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's own digital studio stream. Stay with News 9, online and on television, anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.